Leaving Kentucky is live for another episode. We got Aaron Gershon from the Cat's Paws, catspaws.com, the QB, the author, the coach, Jalen Whitlow, author 2 times over. Go ahead and tell us about the books you've written, James, because I forget to mention that. So tell her about that and the coaching, and let's just let everybody know right off the jump, man.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I forget. But I wrote a book called Prepared, which is for pretty much all, college athletes or high school student athletes that aspire to be collegiate athletes. So, really good at, getting their mind kind of situated on, being organized, what to think about, what to start to prepare for, pun intended. So, that's what it is, man. For really easy read. I recommend it to all student athletes. Even in high school, I think it's good to start to get on some of that stuff and just some of the stuff I wish I knew, as a 17, 18-year-old kid. So good stuff. Then Sign is a book specifically tailored to high school quarterbacks who are wanting to play at the next level. What can they do to play at the next level? How do they go about it? And all of that good stuff, man. Knowing that I train a lot of quarterbacks, train a lot of high school quarterbacks in the area. And, I think, they get the book for free when I start to train them. And I think some of the stuff has helped them learn the recruiting process, learn how to kind of prepare themselves for visits and, how to properly speak to a college coach. Believe it or not, you got a lot of kids nowadays who really, they're really informal when it comes to their first initial reaction with coaches. And you definitely want to be formal, and it'll become informal when they get to know you. You know how that thing goes, warm up to you and whatnot. But just the proper way to do that, and make a good first impression. Go about, ball, playing a good season. So all of that good stuff.
Amazon, Books A Million.
Yeah, so Amazon Paired. I didn't put Sign on there for a reason. But both, you can get both on the website at btgqbtraining.com.
BTGQB Training. Aaron Gershon from the Cat's Paws, catspaws.com. Tell everybody, is there like a special author link that goes right to you that pulls up all your content?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe there is. If you go to the 247 site and click on any story I wrote on there and just click on my name there, it takes it everything. But obviously the football yearbook's out. We're a week into the season, so that's still there. And then the basketball yearbook will be here by the end of the month. So we're always working. It's issues every other week from here on out. So it's the heart of the year, man. It's exciting.
And that was, if you didn't get the football yearbook, you should have, or you still can.
Absolutely,
but, definitely good reading in there. You get a bunch of features in there.
And you get the amazing story that I don't know if you guys got to read it yet. That Daryl, he just posted it, wrote about Ray Davis and his journey, and the upbringing he had that was extremely difficult to overcome, and he's more than overcome it. So that story, and then I haven't posted it online yet. We're holding it a little bit, but I got to meet with Devin Leary over the summer and talk with him for about a half hour and kind of go through his football journey too. So those two went right at the beginning of the yearbook there are the two that I think Daryl and I were most proud of.
Good stuff. So y'all check all of that out. And, this is who is on the podcast dropping knowledge. We got authors, we got journalists, columnists. So continue to do their things and check out their work as well. We come to y'all courtesy of the Believe Network, Believe.com, Spotify, Apple, where you can listen. We're live right now on our Twitter account, our Facebook page, our YouTube as well. So if you want to drop a comment, you want to subscribe, you want to like, feel free to do so. We definitely appreciate it. And we got a little Cat Daddy shirt as well. A little hard to see that on the screen, but available in blue, white, or gray. Go to shop.believe.com, get yourself a shirt, because we got some merch. So now that we're live, y'all can actually see what we've been talking about, and you can go to the website, get yourself a shirt. Whichever color you like, get yourself one. Week 1 is in the books, y'all. Kentucky is 1-0. 44-14 over Ball State and left meat on the bone. That was kind of the theme of all the interviews and press conferences, right?
Oh man, Mark Stoops. Yeah, he was not happy with a 30-point win, which one that speaks of where the program's at. I mean, I think that's a pretty good thing that you're pretty ticked off after you win by 30. But it was just the game was weird with the tempo. And one, you can't complain because you score on offense and special teams. Should have scored twice on defense. The refs didn't let that one play out like they should have. But you only ran 51 offensive plays. Obviously, there was a lot of rust in that first half from Devin Leary that, was a little frustrating. And then he goes 10 for 11 in the second half. But, the number is 11. Like, he did not get to throw the ball as much as you would have wanted him to in that game overall. So that's why with 3 minutes left, they get the ball back. The game's over, but they ran plays and ran offense just to get some reps because they needed those. So it was unfortunate in the sense they didn't get that many offense plays. Unfortunate in the sense they didn't get some playing time that you want to get out there. I think that's the thing that really upset Stoops the most was guys. The younger guys, you want to get them in while you're playing these teams where you're in control. And even the guys like Declan Crowdis or Brandon White, where they're not a red shirt, but you want to get them experience and show them, hey, you're a part of this thing. Like, don't you think about leaving after the season. Like, there's a role for you, and this is what we think. So I think that was the frustrating part from the coaching perspective. And then obviously, really the only other thing was the third down defense was not good enough. I mean, 9 for 17. And that could have got you off the field. That could have got your offense more touches. So those were the things that we're frustrated with. But when you win by 30, when you score in all three phases, the special teams was outside of one little high snap where they still put the hold down and kicked it through. The special teams was flawless. The offense was up and down, but had a pretty good second half. All things considered, Dane Key was great. Ray Davis was great. And then defensively, I mean, the defensive line was really, really good. And Trevin Wallace was the best player on the field. So a lot to like, but I see why Mark Stoops was a little felt like there was left, like you said, meat on the bone still.
Yeah, like I said, you said it better than I can. I mean, I think that kind of, is indicative of where the program is, that nobody seemed happy about it.
No.
Which is a good thing. But at the same time, you do have to take the positives and, kind of congratulate the players for winning the game. And I'm sure they did, but doing well. At the end of the day, you won by 30. So you got to take that for what it's worth. But at the end of the day, yes, I think the new rules, along with the defense not being able to get off the field as much as they wanted to, and you see coaches across. I mean, Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Stoops, all complaining about how they're not getting enough snaps on offense. And I mean, Lane Kiffin,
they're right.
Ole Miss scored 73 points. I mean, come on. But at the same time, yes, man. The biggest thing, like you said, coaches know that they don't get certain players snaps, man. Those guys are gone after the season. Right. They are. It's what it is. It's the world we live in now, and we all know that. So I think that's the biggest thing, man. Is you want to get these players playing time in games like this. And when you don't get enough snaps, and I mean, let alone the guys that need to be playing or the guys that they want to get in. I mean, shoot, some of your starters didn't touch the ball as much as you wanted them to touch it.
Barry Brown had 3 catches, and Mark Stoops noted that, I think, on the radio show.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Brown should be a minimum 6 catch a game, 7 catch a game. And he's going to get his touches, other ways and special teams and, that type of thing too. But, I mean, you want Dane Key and Barry Brown both to have somewhere around 20 attempts or 20 targets, I should say, each, combined. So not each, but combined. But, I think, in hindsight, they will probably, want to get off the field more, obviously. They will probably, I think, at the end of the day, Kentucky, if they really wanted to, they could have needed them a little bit more. But, you just want to get guys snaps. And I understand the frustration because at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys that you have to play so you can make them feel a part of something so they can stay. And they are good players or going to be great players potentially. So, I understand that. But at the end of the day, I think the offense looked pretty good for the first time. You got to understand, this is a new coordinator, these guys. You got your quarterback who hadn't played football in
That's exactly
a long time.
11 months.
Yeah. So, I thought it was a step in the right direction. I mean, it's good to kind of face some adversity and see what you need to work on the first game and kind of retool. So I think that was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing with Devin Leary, where I saw there was a lot of people upset with kind of his game, and I get it to an extent. I mean, 18 for 31 is not the sexiest line in the world. You have the pick, which was just a bad play all around, bad play call, bad execution, whatever. But 10 for 11 in the second half, like I said, and you look at some of those off-schedule throws that when he was clicking at NC State, he was converting on those. And I think it was just they were tad off, and that's where the rust comes in, where he hasn't played in 11 months. It's not just a normal offseason for him. He got hurt last October, and he's been out ever since. Hasn't played in a live game since. Hasn't had live bullets. But, for example, that I think it was 3rd and 14, which they lose 5 yards because Eli Cox jumps early. And he makes that throw down the sideline to Ray Davis, and it's off his fingertips. I think you have that play happen again in 3 weeks. That's going to happen. They're going to make that play. Like, there were a couple plays where you could just tell there was a little rust there. I mean, Tavion Robinson got 12 targets in this game and only had 3 catches. So I'd have to go back and watch every throw, but I assume there were some in there too that maybe, a few weeks down the road, we're saying, okay, Devin and Tavion are hooking up on that. So there was some rust there for sure from Leary, but nothing I was too worried about. If anything, I was more encouraged from what I saw from the offensive line. I know there were a couple of plays that Leary made them look good, but 2 pressures and 1 sack. I mean, if that was week 1 last year, we wouldn't be complaining. And Ray Davis had run holes. He averaged 8 yards per carry. The offense as a whole, I think, averaged a little over 7 yards a play. Like, there were some good things in this game. The first play of the game, by the way, the 44-yard play to Dane Key. If that ball's out a little earlier, it's a house call. And you still got 44 yards on his second read because it was intended to go to Barryon Brown, Liam Cohn said. So, there's still a lot to like. I saw a little much complaining on the day that Devin Leary and the offense had. And no, it wasn't perfect. Yes, we wanted to see get more plays, more explosives, whatever, but it just wasn't a bad performance overall. And, defensively outside of the third downs, I mean, and there were some passes that just can't get completed, especially in the second half. And, JQ Hardaway playing his first game at Kentucky got picked on a little bit, but man, overall the defensive line was flying around. Trevin Wallace, defensive player of the week in the SEC. The hit Alex Afari made that was clean to knock that ball out. Jalen Geiger takes it home in his first game back from his injury. Like, there was a lot to like in this game, and I think you can't take it for granted.
Yeah. Thinking brand new system, brand new receivers, Rusty, just as veteran as he is, probably pressing, trying to get to where he knows he can be. Just all those factors. Yeah. And like you said, he'll be in sync. And like this game coming up against Eastern is just like getting synced up. Just getting that little bit of fine tuning to get where they all know they can be. And y'all said it. They're mad after winning 44-14. It's because they know what they're all capable of. They know what kind of team that they pretty much are confident that they have, and they, just wanting to get there. And it's just gonna take a minute.
And, you also got to think about, too, like, this is Devin's first time in front of this crowd. He wants to show off. There's a human element, too, where he probably – and that was kind of a common theme, too, when with everyone in the press conferences this week is, hey, at this point, we're doing a little too much. And, guys, the first game jitter thing is real. And they always say, and you probably heard it – you've probably said it as a coach, Jalen, and heard it from your coaches, like, the most improvement you make is from week 1 to week 2 because you have tape. You have things to actually build on. So, some of I understand, again, why Mark Stoops was so heated. I understand a little bit why some of the fans wanted to see some more. But overall, like, this is not a game. This was a much cleaner game than week 1 last year when they won by, I think, 26 or 24 against Miami of Ohio. The sacks weren't there. Some of the just overall sloppiness with the turnovers on offense weren't there. I mean, defensively, they were pretty good last year in that opener. But even the first drive of the game, we talked about that, how Kentucky has stunk with first drives of the game in home openers, and they forced Ball State 3-and-out right out of the chute. So, I mean, just a lot more positives than negatives for me in this one. And also, we'll talk, I'm sure, more about Trevor Wallace, but Khalil Saunders, the way that kid runs at 6'5", 285, that's pretty good to have if he's going to be, left only blocked by one guy or even unblocked at times because they had to take care of Deion Walker.
And the fact that, defensively, you have a goal line stand in there, which, serves you well down the road when you're in, adverse situations or kind of back against the wall and got to bow up. For those who casually looked at the score, it looks a lot better seeing Ball State with 14 instead of 21. You don't want them getting 21 points on you any way at all. I said 30-9. The offense did score 30 points, didn't account for the scoop and score or the kickoff return, which they're not going to go and say, hey, defense don't score, special teams don't score. Even though the offense is frustrated,
right?
You're getting 14 points chipped in from all other aspects of the game. So,
and the offense still scores what? They score
30.
40. They scored 30. Yeah. So, and you made all your kicks.
Yes. And, like the one high snap, but, dude was clutch. He stepped in there.
Barry got it nerves. Down.
Yeah.
And Rayner hit it up. And what was so impressive about that goal line stand, by the way, Vinny, is that they got a pick taken off the board with an arguable pass interference call against Zion Childers, where Mark Stoops was kind of explaining how they were in a meeting. I think it was Mark Stoops who said it, where they had a meeting with the officials that Friday, and how the rule was basically if you turn your head, to the ball, they're not going to flag you for it. And Zion, there was some contact at the top of the route, but if you watch that play, and they called pass interference, so it wasn't illegal contact, it wasn't holding, because that happened outside the end zone. But if you watch the play, Zion Childers just turns his head, and the ball happens to be in his face, and he catches it. Like that should not have been a pass interference, but the defense ponies up instead of a letdown, and they're able to get off the field with a goal line stand. So really impressive there.
Something else, Jay?
No, you got it.
So go ahead and get specific if you want, Aaron.
I think this was a good one, and now you got the thing with the CKU team is they gave up 66 points, and I understand. They had a pretty good year last year, but defensively, I think they allowed around 36 a game. In these FCS levels, there's not much defense, outside of like the Dakotas and stuff. So EKU, they have one of their starting corners. I'm not trying to pick on him, but he's 5'9", and he's going to have to probably deal with Dane Key on that side, because that's the side he usually lines up on. Like, there's a lot of matchups that you got to take advantage in this one, and you got to make sure you can run the offense you want and as many plays as you want. If you score on offense, if you score on defense or special teams, don't apologize for it. But this is a game where you should be able to feel pretty comfortable offensively, do some things that you want to, dictate the pace and all that, and just blow these guys out of the water. I mean, Parker McKinney is a capable quarterback for EKU. Their running back, Braden Sloan's really good, but there's just not enough firepower there. And if you look at the game against Cincinnati that EKU had, it was Emory Jones, who you guys remember at Florida, wasn't great down there. He had 7 total touchdowns, 7, 2 on the ground, 5 throwing. Like Devin Leary. I mean, you would think this, and this is not a good Cincinnati team this year, by the way. They're kind of, obviously it's Satterfield, and not just. I don't think that much of Satterfield, but it's also a rebuild. Luke Fickell, one of the best coaches to go through. I mean, they've had a lot of good coaches there, but obviously one of the better group of 5 coaches the last couple of years leaves. They're transitioning to the Big 12. Like, this is kind of a retool year up in Cincinnati. I think they were picked to finish like 10th or 11th in the Big 12. And, they put 66 on EKU. Like, UK should be licking their chops when it comes to that. Honestly, like, the EKU's talent is more so on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I don't know how EKU even boosts the D line of Kentucky, man.
I don't either.
I don't
No.
see how that's. Go ahead.
They do have an FCS All-American left tackle, so they do have one respectable offensive line. So I'll give them that.
Yeah, we'll see. I just like you said, man. Cincinnati scored 66.
Yeah.
As a coach, going into a game where you're supposed to win and probably win big, you just want to see what I'm about to say. Stoops always said, play clean. You just want to see it play clean, man, and especially on offense, because offense is one of those things where it takes everybody to play clean. One guy not playing clean, and the whole thing just looks bad. So that's what they want to play. Get the rhythm going on offense. Get the passing going. Maybe see your quarterback make some off-platform, off-schedule plays, but also some on-schedule stuff, and just get the rhythm kicked in gear. Heading into the week and jumping off into it.
Yeah, it got a little laggy, but yeah, for sure. Just like you said, it shouldn't be comfortable. You should be able to get everybody work, get everybody in shape. Like Stoop said, we're running plays just because we hadn't ran any plays. Go get guys some reps. So that should be what this type of game is. Walt Wells knows everybody. CJ Conrad knows everybody. A bunch of Frederick Douglass kids go to EKU, just like, Jagger and DeKel and everybody of UK. So it's going to be a reunion type, familiarity type thing. But
you got Jalen's former teammate, and I'm assuming you guys are pretty close. Maxwell Smith is their quarterback's coach too, and he was a GA here at UK a couple of years ago.
Yep, he's the quarterback's coach, and you got CJ. So a lot of familiarity. From whatever every year. What year was that where EKU and Kentucky played, and it was kind of
they went to overtime.
15.
Yes, 15 they played. Went to overtime, and then 17 EKU had the lead at halftime.
Yeah, so in 15, it was Deshaun Mobley, from Kentucky, and Patrick. Played D line for EKU. And that they were, because I was communicating, they wanted to win that game so bad. They came close though.
Mm-hmm.
They did. Dorian Baker saved the day, that one.
Yeah, that was when you had those way too close for comfort. There's been several of those, and that may be at the top of the list of biting wins.
Yeah, that was Dean Hood, and Walt Wells was on that staff, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, look, historically this game has been close, but this is the best Kentucky team I think EKU is going to go up against. And again, I think EKU offensively now, their quarterback is really, really good. I mean, Parker McKinney, he's in like his 10th year. It feels like he's been the starter there since 2019. Like, he's played a ton of college football. He's a third-team All-American at that level last year. So, it's good. I mean, it's an experienced quarterback, and that'll give Kentucky a look at that and some preparation for later in the year. But they just gotta take care of business here and do what they want in this game. They have to dictate it. They have to be able to be the ones to determine, hey, we're going to be able to get this guy in by the fourth quarter because we're going to be up by 40 points. So you just got to take care of business and, move on to hopefully stay healthy. You lost Kenneth Horsey last week. He'll be out a couple weeks and, move on to Akron. And then, by then you're 1 week out of conference play.
Yeah. And EKU's got a long history, a lot of tradition. Roy Kidd won one AA championship there in the 80s, and his health isn't good now. So that's, I hate to hear that. And especially for them and the program and everybody associated with EKU, but a little bit down this year. They're not what they typically have been and traditionally are.
Not too extensively.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I found a document from Roy Kidd back. I mean, this was probably created this document in the 90s, 80s maybe. It's a document on football visualization, how they were trying to get their players to visualize and use their imagination and visualization, to help them prepare for games. And, I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought, kind of ahead of his time. When you really stuff, man. That's I'll send it to y'all when I find it. I got it somewhere. It's pretty interesting to read, man.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be
Absolutely.
cool, for sure. But yeah, he was definitely a legendary coach. I was listening to Alan Cutler today. Any level, not just 1AA, any level of coaching.
No doubt.
He's a legendary coach, no matter what level you want to talk about. So,
No doubt.
for sure. I think won a couple 1AA national championships and like got beat at the buzzer. He should have had 3. He lost, I think.
Yep.
Boise State or somebody hit a pass in the end zone at like a walk-off touchdown, basically, that knocked him out of winning another title. So
Yeah, and they lost one to Youngstown, I believe.
yeah. And some guys from where I'm from, Charles Tinsley played for EKU against Couch and when they played Kentucky. His son was a legacy recruit there. So a lot of history there and a lot of tradition for the Colonels for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Did you have something else on Trevin? And you said like specifically on. I mean, we saw him all over the place.
Yeah, nothing new, man. I just thought he was unbelievable out there. I mean, the speed he plays with, and there was that one play that unfortunately Ball State's running back got hurt on, and literally the ball gets snapped and Trevin's already in the backfield. Like it was just insane, the game that he had. And I mean, obviously, going against SEC offensive lines, that'll be a little difficult. But I mean, he said his goal is to have 10 tackles a game every game. And he had 12 on Saturday, 2 of them for a loss, split a sack. Like just a dude, man. SEC Defensive Player of the Week, standalone, didn't share that award. Just he's going to be a fun one to watch. He's a sneaky All-American candidate along with Dion potentially. So I think Kentucky fans should enjoy this year because if he plays like that, he'll be playing on Sundays next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, meat on the bone, EKU coming to town, Akron after that, just, sync yourself up, get in rhythm. Jalen, talk about the old adage, your teams improve most from week 1 to week 2.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell the listeners why that is and, why coaches say that a lot and as a player, why that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, just you get game, you got good film, and you can teach off good film, and you I think the biggest thing coaches like is you kind of know, you get a better feel of your new personnel, and they can move guys if they need to move them, and they can put guys in certain spots if they need to kind of shuffle the board a little bit. So, it's just. You get a chance. There's nothing like you can scrimmage all you want. Y'all heard this. You can scrimmage every day if you want to. It's not gonna measure up to what it's like on a Saturday afternoon or night at Kroger Field. It's just not. So you never really know what you got from your new guys until you step into a game. So that's really the big thing. I think you kind of shore up some schematic, potential issues or, kind of see what works for your guys and see, who does what well and whatnot when you're going against somebody different. Because what a lot of people don't think of, like if I'm a center, I've been blocking Dion the whole off season, going against him, blocking him in spring, blocking him in fall camp. Well, that isn't, at some point I'm going to know how to get him. Now probably not him all the time. That's a bad example. But at some point, I'm gonna know his moves. I'm gonna figure his rhythm out. It's just like boxing, right? You see Floyd Mayweather the first couple rounds. He's just figuring your rhythm out. He's just figuring out who you are as a boxer. It's just the same thing when you're playing football, right? You get a chance to, So when you go against somebody different, they're showing you a different movement, different speed, different moves, different pass rush moves, different, you got a bull rush, speed rush, swim move, whatever. They show you different stuff. So the action time based on what you've been practicing against as opposed to what you're going up against on Saturdays is a little bit different. Sometimes just because a guy's slower don't mean you're going to play better. his moves may be different, his rhythm may be different. It can throw you off. So you just never really know. It's just so many little details that go into it. But the biggest thing is personnel from a coaching standpoint. You get a chance to see who's who. Do we need to move guys around? Do we need to take guys out of certain spots, put somebody else in the spot? Do we need to take a guy from strong safety, put him at free safety? Whatever it may be, you get a chance to really see that. And what kind of coverages are we better at this year? We may be a zone team this year, maybe more of a man team, maybe a heavy pressure team, maybe more reserved, more conservative, or maybe a drop back passing team, maybe a run play action team. You get a chance to really get a feel for what this team does well, because you really never know until you play another opponent. So that's why, from a coaching standpoint, you make the biggest jump, because you get a chance to make coaching adjustments that you just couldn't make. I think that's the big thing.
And you mentioned in your explanation, you mentioned playing center. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention and new personnel, the fact that Jagger Burton moved over to center. You hear he's doing good in practice. You hope you don't have snaps going over the quarterback's head and inaccurate snaps, or snaps like ground balls going back to the quarterback. And he got his first game under his belt, and you had good snaps, didn't have any issues, and so now he can kind of build on that going forward. He doesn't have to be anxious about what it's like in a game playing center, since he had never done it before. Now he's actually got get another game against a lesser opponent, even though it's still bullets flying as you continue to get in sync for him personally and the entire offense that was just a little bit off. But it can't start until he snaps it. He starts it all off. So that's another thing too.
Yeah, there's nothing better. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying there's nothing better than, like I said, going against good competition. Kentucky has good defense. So going against good competition all season, and then you get in a real game, which is different. The real game is different, but you get a chance to go against teams that are probably not as good as what you're going to play in conference. So you get a chance to build up to it. So for Jagger, he's new to the position. He get a chance to build up to playing whoever that knows is going to be for Florida or Georgia or whoever. You get a chance to build up to that. So make your mistakes now, learn from it. Obviously, he has physical ability, or he wouldn't be starting. Learn from it, and when it's time to play, the big dogs, you're ready to go. You got it under your belt, and you're ready to improve. So that's good.
Yep. Like you said, Aaron, fortunate that Keelan Horthy wasn't lost for the season. That they looked to get him back at some point. So that was.
Yeah, definitely good that he's not out for the season. It didn't look good, when they bring the card out, and he looked pretty upset. But Dylan Ray did a really nice job in the second half. Coaches were pretty happy with him. He's a guy that they actually brought in as a preferred walk-on, right after spring ball from West Virginia, and he's earned himself a scholarship. He's earned himself a role. I mean, he can play tackle and guard. He's the backup left tackle also. So, it's good that they have a quality backup there. But the problem is, what if someone else goes down and the depth, continues to thin? So it's tough to already lose starting offensive lineman 1 week in, but, we'll see when they can get him back. At least it's not a full year injury we're talking here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we got Kentucky covered pretty good, which is what we're going to do each and every week. Got to branch out to Pac-12, Aaron, go ahead and pat yourself in the back, toot your horn, went down in Fort Worth, and you was telling us about it last week, man.
I just had a feeling that, I'm not going to doubt, if you're listening, which you're not, but Deion Sanders, I'm not a doubter. I believed. I thought this would be a 6-win football team. I don't think they're going to be in the playoff hunt, but I still don't think that quite yet. But, I mean, they got dudes. Like Travis Hunter is a generational talent. What he's doing, playing 89% of the game snaps, playing offense, defense. I mean, the conditioning. And after the game, they asked him, "Are you tired?" He's like, "No, let's go again. Let's keep playing." Like that dude is different. He is Shohei Ohtani, like on a football field. So that's outstanding. I mean, the Shedeur Sanders was. You had the best individual passing yard day in Colorado history, and they've had some pretty good quarterbacks there. Cordell Stewart, obviously, being on the top of that list. Like, it is a pretty there's some, they don't have the greatest history. They're no Alabama, but some of the players that they've had come through that program, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, you got some Heisman winners in there. Like they have some legit names, and he was able to pass them in one day. And then, defensively they weren't great, but Travis Hunter was, with the pick he made, that diving pick, that was not even a bad throw. It wasn't a bad decision. It was just Travis Hunter being a dude. Just a really impressive showing. I know TCU's lost a lot, obviously starting with Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston, but to go down to Fort Worth, hostile environment against the team that they're welcoming them back for the first time since they were in the national championship game, like that is a big deal. And now you go home. That environment, I saw like the cheapest ticket on resale is like $400. Like that place is going to be insane. And you got Nebraska coming in, and Nebraska lost in the most Nebraska way possible. So, Colorado can probably smell the blood in the water. Like something, I'm telling you, Deion, what he's doing is changing the game of college football. The one thing that I wouldn't say it's a negative, but the one thing it puts on notice to me is for some of these coaches like Hugh Freeze, just an example. I'm not saying he's on a hot seat, but guys who just get hired at big time jobs, Hugh Freeze being the top example from this last coaching cycle. Even Billy Napier now in year 2. If you don't get that thing turned around quick with the transfer portal, you're screwed, man. Like you're not going to last. Like Deion Sanders put together a team. They were 1-11 last year, like 1-11. And this team goes and beats the defending, runner-ups on the road. They have a chance to go 2-0 against 2 Power 5 teams to start the year. The Pac-12 is, in the last year of the Pac-12 as we know it, it's as good as the Pac-12 has been in a long, long time. And they have a chance to be a contender in that conference. Like, the excuses are gonna, like Billy Napier, if he has a 5-7 year this year, he might be gone. If Hugh Freeze, it doesn't happen within the next 2-3 years, he's going to be gone. So with this transfer portal, it's a little easier to rebuild, and Deion Sanders might be setting a new standard for it.
And TCU, didn't have what they had last year, lost a lot. We get it, but they were still supposed to
top 25
this Colorado team. They still were supposed to beat Colorado, and had they won, everybody would have, see Deion, he's in over his head. He ain't, but now he's went down there and won. They were dogging him out about the way he cleaned house, the way he redid the roster. It was bold. Yeah. It was 86 new players, but then he goes down and beat, like you said, defending runner-up. So
it just sets a whole new bar with this portal.
You want to throw shade at him when the way he did it. Now, he goes out and wins week 1.
Yep.
You can understand why he had receipts for. I saw what you wrote.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. It's not us as the media. Like, it's not our job to believe or not, but. I get it. He has a right to call it. Like, look, everyone, no one thought, and I'm not like a prediction for this game is whatever. I mean, the first game of the year, going up again, defending runner-ups, whatever, 20-point dogs. Like, I get if you didn't think they were going to win this game. I still picked TCU to win outright. I just thought Colorado would make it an interesting ball game. But it's just it's just insane. Like, I don't even have the words for it. And I get, Travis Hunter helps that a lot because he might be the best player, a top 5 player in all of college football, but that's just one dude. Did you say 86 new players? Is that right? It might be something. I don't think it's quite that, but it's close. It might be. Yeah. It might be counting like walk-ons and all that.
Yeah. So like pretty much a whole new squad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Except I know they're the 6'9", I think either right or left tackle was a carryover. That's the only guy I know off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Obviously a couple of Kentucky's ex-players, Vito Tisdale and Quincy Smoker out there. So it's a whole new team. And look, he probably had to say goodbye to some talented players. Actually, we saw Ty Robinson, the wide receiver, who had 90 yards against Kentucky for Ball State, is one of those guys who left Colorado after this and was probably let go. But look, he did it a different way. It's working early. If they win again against Nebraska here, Nebraska, I mean, the big difference between Nebraska and TCU, Nebraska's got defense. TCU, I don't know how much of a defense they really had. Nebraska does have a defense, but if they win this game and they do it pretty convincingly, they score a bunch of points. Again, like Billy Napier, you got to be a little nervous right now because I guarantee you Florida's going to be looking at what Sanders is doing and being, all right, who could do that here? Because it ain't happening.
He's already exceeded the expectations, even though nobody's saying he's going to go 10-2 or whatever, but he's already done more than a bunch of people thought after one game.
They matched their win total in one game. They matched their win total. So, and I couldn't tell you who their win was against that last year. It was probably
lost Aaron. First of all, non-conference. It had to be. I'm sure it had to be a non-conference. I mean,
no doubt. No doubt. It was not good themselves, but look, I think he frankly scaring the hell out of college coaches.
Yeah,
because at the end of everything about his style of coaching is different. It's unconventional. It's kind of bucking the system in a way. Like, I mean, 80 new players on your roster, and you going out and beating TCU, national runner-up, first game of the season. 80 new players. Some of these guys on the team don't even know their teammate that they're playing next to last name, and they're beating them. They're beating, a team that just got done playing the national championship. Now, granted, obviously they lost players, like you said, but still, at TCU, primetime game, pun intended. It's just it's crazy, man. I knew that they had some good players. I didn't know that they had that much star power. And the guy that kind of surprised me, I guess you say surprised, is this Dylan Edwards kid.
Oh, a freshman.
He's pretty good. I thought the O-line would be the weak point team, and they are in the run game, kind of. But in the pass game, they did a good job. I mean, talking about a quarterback who passed the ball for 510 yards, somebody's doing something right. So look, that I didn't predict that they would win that game. So now they go in and beat Nebraska. I mean, you can almost just forego the rest of the season for Colorado's front office. I mean, they've already broken the bank from what they did last year. I had to guess. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just a simple hire. One guy, not simple, but one guy coming in, and he's like changing the look of Colorado football. If you look at guys who in high school right now, I know in my lifetime, that I remember watching football from when I was 6 on to now. Colorado wasn't relevant to me. Like I don't see Colorado as like a relevant football program. You got these kids now. I'm about to see Colorado like as a relevant college football program, based on one game. Now, obviously, they got one game don't define everything, but just the publicity, the hype that he's bringing to that. We've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. Again, like you said, these coaches are going to be scared, man. Like, this guy is changing the game. I mean, literally, like, even after the Florida-Utah game, which was, we all kind of saw Utah taking care of business in that one. There wasn't really any talk like, oh, Billy Napier, like, blah, blah, blah. As soon as Colorado, that score goes final, there was like a hot board. All right, who's replacing Billy Napier? Like, and now it's Mike Elko because Duke beat Clemson 28-7 and won 9 games last year. So it's just it's going to have that effect, though. I mean, like Mel Tucker at Michigan State, it had a terrible year last year. If they struggle again this year, who can come do that in the Big Ten for me? Even Chip Kelly, like if he doesn't take that program another step in the next couple of years, who can bring that to Hollywood? Like it's going to be. Already these coaches have pretty short leashes. I mean, Mark Stoops is the rare where Mitch Barnhart stuck with him and it prevailed. The patience paid off, and I'm sure Mitch Barnhart is rightfully so patting himself on the back for staying patient, not being reactionary to the first 4 years. But man, elsewhere, I mean, we already saw Brian Harsin only last a year and a half. We've already seen, Dan Mullen wins the SEC East, and the next year is Kent. Like, that's going to be an even more expedited process now if you can't turn it around in a big place.
It's crazy because you always hear people say you can't microwave success. Well, that shit.
He did, yeah. He's saying yes, I can.
Yeah, it ain't. I mean, it's not true. I mean, this dude has. When did Deion get there? What in December?
December. Yeah.
I mean,
December.
So, hey man, look, if they win 8 games, I think he will totally change the landscape of how people see in college recruiting. I mean, college recruiting has changed, but like you said, if I'm a AD at a school, I expect us to go from a new coach, and we need to be 6-6.
Yeah.
We need to be. I mean, because off rip. I mean, off 1 year, because it's doable now. You can go do that. You can go totally, exhaust to grab people from the transfer portal. I mean, you can really fire everybody and go get a whole new roster. So, it's gonna be the norm here moving soon.
How mad do you think Clemson's AD is right now? Like, think of it this way. Dabo Swinney, the reason that Clemson has fallen off the last 2 years is because they have not adapted to the transfer portal. They took one transfer this offseason, and it's a backup quarterback from Arizona State. Like, they did nothing in the transfer portal, and their roster took some hits to the NFL. They didn't, do enough to fill some holes. They're trying to fill it with young guys. They're trying to fill it with inexperienced starters. And they go in to get their ass kicked by Duke. And Duke just looked like it wasn't even that they got their ass kicked and they choked at the 1 yard line. Duke looked tougher. They looked more physical. They were faster. Like, Duke looked like the better football team. And like Colorado, 1 year, all these new faces, and they're going to be in a Pac-12 hunt potentially. They're a top 25 team already. Like, I mean, obviously, if you're Clemson, you can't be. You've had a lot of success. You've won 2 national championships with Dabo Swinney, but like, that's where ADs are going to start to lose their mind, where if coaches don't adapt and they don't, I'm not saying they need to go flip an entire roster over. I mean, I don't think Deion, I don't know if that's going to happen everywhere, but you might have to flip 30 guys like Florida's done, and they haven't done it successfully quite yet, but I think they've had the right idea, at least down in Florida. I think, you got to get on board. You got to adapt. That's why Mark Stoops always says, like, I don't think any of us like this change, but we're sure as hell going to adapt to it and try our best with the NIL, try our best with the transfer portal. And that's why Kentucky's been able to stay competitive and not really, last year, 7 wins is not what they wanted, but for old Kentucky, that's a great season. So, they're still relevant, and that's what it's going to take now. That's what it's going to take. And that's why I think Clemson, like, if you're Clemson and you're watching Colorado, if you're a Clemson fan, you're pissed off, because that easily could be you with the brand they've built, the NIL situation they have down there. Like, they could be the Clemson we saw in the late 2010s. They should be that still. And
he's refusing to adapt. Change. Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
that is it. There's just sitting by doing nothing, and it's kind of passing them by right now. So
yeah, and the biggest losers of the weekend were Clemson and really the SEC in big games.
Yeah, South Carolina, same thing.
They're. I want to give credit to Nick Roush, my guy over at KSR. He wrote a piece over the summer that South Carolina has a lot of similarities to Kentucky last year, where they hire a former NFL offense coordinator who didn't do well in the NFL. They have an offensive line that they're relying on either low-level transfers or no experience. They have a quarterback with NFL potential, but the talent around him is suspect. They have some good receivers even, but the offensive line is so bad. That's kind of exactly, it reminded me of Kentucky going up against, I'm trying to think of a game that, it was like, it looked like a little bit, not quite to the extent because of the scoreboard, but it kind of felt like Kentucky against Tennessee at times. It kind of felt like Kentucky's offense, at least against Georgia, where they just had no chance. And that was embarrassing. I know North Carolina is better up front. that team was I think they finished dead last in sacks last year in the ACC and toward the bottom of Power 5. Like, they were an abysmal defensive front, an abysmal defense. And South Carolina gets sacked 9 times and runs for 17 yards, 17 gained yards. That's not the net yardage. Like, that was brutal, man. Like, LSU, I can give a little bit of a pass to because I think Florida State's really damn good. Not a total pass because the second half's an embarrassment, but I can say, okay, look, Florida State might just be that team this year. They might be really good. But South Carolina, there's no excuses for that, man. Like, North Carolina's not that much better than you. It should not have been that ugly.
Hey, man, right? No, go ahead, Ben.
They got a bit ahead of their schedule with, they won the 8 games and all this, but was it his first year, second year? He had a bunch of you barely beat Vanderbilt. You had a couple narrow wins that could have went either way. They went his way, and so you had a good season. But I think it made everybody think that they were further along as a program than they really are, and they're not as ahead of schedule as everybody wants to say they are, or Beamer wants you to think they are, and they're kind of falling back down to earth, and getting some bumps and bruises, and reality kind of setting in on them.
No doubt. It's a good sign for Kentucky, though, obviously. But with that tough schedule playing Georgia and Bama, it's good to see at least one of your opponents that you are supposed to be developing a strong rivalry with, not looking too hot. But a lot can happen. But I was gonna say, man, is I think the 2 teams that had kind of struck everybody, obviously Colorado and Duke. But if I had to really say that maybe a tie for second outside of Colorado is Florida State. Florida State dominated LSU. I watched it. I watched the second half. I mean, they were obviously the best team on the field. They have very, very potential high level first round, second round draft picks everywhere on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Receiver, quarterback. I mean, just every running backs. The third or fourth running back came in the game towards the end and was balling. I think he was the third guy and was absolutely balling. I mean, and I thought I had LSU winning.
Yeah, I did too.
But Florida State schematically, I'm a nerd with this now. Schematically, I thought they did an excellent job at keeping LSU off balance. Quarterback made some throws down the stretch. I mean, hey, man, it potentially could be a situation with Florida as well. And, that I see that happen.
And I forgot what I was going to say, but I had thought I just lost it.
Yeah.
LSU. But go ahead.
Yeah. Johnny Wilson, that dude.
Yeah.
And then another, not to pick on South Carolina too much, but Jaheim Bell, the tight end that, all South Carolina fans, and they were right, were screaming at Marcus Satterfield, the offense coordinator last year, like, how are you not involving this guy? How are you not involving this guy? He's literally like got Kyle Pitts traits. And he goes to Florida State first game, and he absolutely balls out. I think he scored 3 times, like, absolute monster. Like, and Jordan Travis is a really good quarterback now. We saw it last year. The injury kind of set him back, but I remember I watched most of the game they played. I think it was at Louisville, and I think Travis started his career at Louisville, and I knew that was kind of a big deal. He balled out against them, and man, yeah, they're a good team, man. I think they're definitely the top team in the ACC, and if they run the table, they're going to end up in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they neutralized Perkins, who was a monster last year.
They sure did.
Now, Brian Kelly talked about, he's playing linebacker now and got to get his eyes right and this kind of stuff too. But they, it was nobody thought he'd be that quiet.
Did nothing.
And just wasn't a factor. They took him out of the ball game. So.
And the biggest worry with LSU going into this season was they have a really young defensive backfield. And going up against Florida State is like the worst thing you could do with a young backfield with some of the dudes they have out wide at tight end, the quarterback, the running backs like Jalen mentioned. Like, Mike Norvell, like, we talked about guys who are in, I guess he's in his 3rd or 4th year now, but we're talking about guys like, if they don't get it right away, that's a guy you got to give credit for Florida State being a little patient with. I think he might be in his 4th year now. Obviously, they had a really good year last year, not a great year. They've made strides in recruiting each year. Norvell's been there, and now year 3 or 4, whatever it is now, they're in the national title conversation. Like, that is a really good job by Florida State's administration, letting it play out and rewarding that guy, because he's done a great job, really underrated job there.
Mm-hmm. Well, fellas, I think we covered everything. Aaron, I'll see you Sunday night when the Cowboys come to MetLife. We'll see what happens with that.
We'll see. That should be a good one. I don't know which way it'll go. I'm not going to predict it. I don't predict Giants games. I just hope for the best. So.
I understand. But, man, we'll come back next episode, talk about EKU, get the last non-conference game out of the way after that. We'll look back at EKU, look ahead to Akron, and then we'll have SEC games to talk about. Anything else that catches our eye, we'll let you know how to find us, how to listen to us. We might be on some other ways where you can access us. We can let y'all know what might be coming down the pipe as far as that goes. But appreciate everybody that watches here now and follows us and listens, and keep doing it. We appreciate it. For Jalen Whitlow and Aaron Gershon, my name is Vinny Hardy. We'll be back next week for another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Everybody take care.